I'll talk about Albert Einstein a bit more down the line, but just hold this in your thoughts. So he was about 25, 26 when he became famous, and even more so later in life. But during that period, while he was around that age, he worked at a patent office. Now, a patent office is a place where, so for example, if I come up with an anti-gravity concept, I would submit it to the patent office and they would approve it, and that means no one else can now copy that. That's mine, and I can now create that product. Obviously they can reject it and say no, someone else has already come up with that, or it's too similar to another one. So what I'm saying is, maybe Einstein wasn't as smart as we all think he was. He would be getting lots of different people ideas, and patents. So it wouldn't have just been my anti-gravity. Someone else could have sent him that. So I think he may have used other people's ideas. So here is George Adamski. He's the one that took the picture of this UFO. As I mentioned in the last video, I kind of think it looks a bit odd. Doesn't suit the other ones. Now, it's possible that he was ridiculed and had to make up pictures in order to prove that he actually saw this craft. Now that's, if that's the case, that's very similar to this alien autopsy film. Now, Ray Santilli came across a cameraman that apparently was at Area 51 and took the footage of this autopsy. Now, when he paid for it, he had to borrow money, paid for it. When he got the footage back to the UK, it disintegrated, and film does that if it's been stored and then opened. So he apparently recreated this, but he also injected the few frames. There's a few times that you can actually see the frames difference, where he still had good frames, so he put them in there. Now, I'll cover this one a bit more in the next video. So the story goes, Ray Santilli got the footage. It was destroyed by the time he got it back to the UK. He borrowed money and had to pay the guy back. So the only thing he could do was recreate this in a front room. Now, this is apparently a recreation that he done. Now, originally he claimed it was real. Then he claimed it was fake, but on the proviso that some of the frames that were still seeable, that wasn't disintegrated, he put into the actual film itself. Now, I've watched this over, and because I know about film, I knew when that one or two frames popped up, and yes, he did a very good job, and it does look very similar to the original one that in those one or two frames. Now, this is quite amazing because CGI, or not CGI, but Stan Winston from the film effects company looked at this and actually said this was amazing work. So well done to Ray, but I do believe he saw it. The secret military craft called the TR-3B, which is an American triangle anti-gravity craft. Now, this was actually featured in the last series of the X-Files. Now, if you actually watch the last series of the X-Files, you will see so many things that they've got right. They really have. They really did do a great job on knowing a lot of stuff. So when you watch that last series, a lot of that is actually genuine, but obviously the makers are trying to get it out there for us to understand, and I think that was one of the shots there from it. But can I just tell you a little story? Way back when YouTube first started, I think about a year or two after it started, I was researching as I do, and I came across this video, and it was about 20 minutes long, and it had a guy standing by a projector screen and a table in front of him with notes on, etc. And the camera was behind various people. Now, these were all army people, all wearing their army costumes. So there's probably about 20 or 30 in the room that I could tell from the camera angle pointing over their heads to the guy with the projector screen who was doing the talking. And he covered the TR-3B. He explained how they landed with the tripod legs, why the people couldn't get near them. There was a certain type of landing pad that they had to have. Now, back then I didn't know anything about YouTube, really. I didn't know that you could even copy the films off of YouTube to save, and I assumed it would still be there, but obviously it's been pulled. But there was a couple of other interesting things that he'd done. Now, I have to believe this was genuine, because to get all these people and loads of slideshows of craft that he was going through, just for what, a YouTube video, and back then YouTube wasn't even that popular. But a couple of things that he did show he showed a craft near Saturn with so basically from a window from whatever craft they were in. I think it might have said the TR-3B or a different craft, but someone had taken a photograph out of the window of this craft near Saturn, and it showed another craft with a USAF, I think it was, flag, or an American flag. I'm not quite sure which one it was. So that was really interesting, because it clearly means that they'd been there for some time. And another photograph, along with many others that he showed some sort of dinosaur head popping out of some trees. Now, he said that the craft that they were in had the ability to go back in time. Make of that as you will. I personally believed it. I wish I could get my hands on that footage again. It was 20 minutes long, so for a laugh it wasn't worth doing. This to me, I believe, was genuine. Aliens under our oceans. They don't just have bases on Moon, Mars and other planets. They actually also have bases on Earth, in mountains, which is another story, and also under our oceans. And they go deep underneath. Now, their craft, obviously, because they've got anti-gravity, and it creates a shield around it, which is a distortion field. It obviously doesn't get affected by the pressure of the ocean. But it's not just oceans. Lake Titicaca also has a base underneath it, and President Eisenhower, before he was a president, actually saw a UFO. He worked on a ship at one point, or was on a ship, and his crewmates and everything saw a UFO go into the water. Speaking of presidents, before they were presidents, President Reagan, while he was a senator, him and Nancy had missing time. They saw a UFO, had missing time, arrived late at a party 2 hours later. He was abducted.